Imagine for a second that you're looking at a giant glowing map of the world.
Oh, I love a good map analogy.
Right. But instead of, countries and borders, what you're seeing is a vast network of arteries.
Like a living organism.
Exactly like that. And some of these arteries are physical, right? Like massive ships pumping oil across the oceans. And some are digital invisible pipelines carrying the data that runs, well, absolutely everything.
Pretty much our entire modern existence, yeah.
Yeah, and usually we think of the physical world and the digital world as like two completely separate maps. But what happens when you overlay them? You start to see that when one specific artery gets pinched,
The entire global body feels it.
yes, the whole system reacts. Today is Sunday, July 12, 2026, and we are unpacking a stack of intel that shows exactly where those pinches are happening right now and how physical global choke points are colliding directly with our digital lives.
It's a fascinating stack of briefing notes today, honestly.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the most classic physical choke point on the map, which is the Strait of Hormuz.
Right. And for those who might need a quick refresher, the Strait of Hormuz is a remarkably narrow channel. It sits right between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman.
Super narrow, but incredibly important.
Exactly. It is arguably the world's most critical physical artery for oil. And right now, the situation there is escalating sharply.
The reports coming in are, frankly, intense. Iran has announced they've once again closed the strait.
Which is always a massive red flag for global markets.
Oh, absolutely. And in response, the United States struck roughly, I think the number's around 140 Iranian military targets.
Yeah, that's the current estimate we have.
And on top of that, we're seeing Mojtaba Khamenei vowing retribution for his father's death in an earlier airstrike.
Which just adds this deeply personal layer to a geopolitical powder keg.
Right. Now, officials on both sides are claiming that a technical ceasefire still holds, even as these strikes are continuing, which is...
It's a paradox, honestly.
It's an incredibly tense high-wire act. But, if the Strait of Hormuz is the world's physical jugular vein for energy, I'm looking at our briefing notes and wondering about the digital side of that map. Are places like Johor, Malaysia, becoming the digital jugular veins of the 21st century?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the answer is a definitive yes, because the modern warfare we are seeing in the Iran conflict...
The drones and all that.
Exactly. The drones, the satellites, the complex cyber operations, none of that exists in a vacuum. It relies heavily on tech supply chains that originate in very specific, highly localized places. Which brings us to the state election that just wrapped up in Johor, Malaysia.
Okay, now hold on. I think most people listening are probably wondering how we just jumped from, airstrikes in the Middle East to a local state election in Malaysia. Walk me through the mechanism here. Why does Johor matter to someone listening halfway across the world?
Well, because Johor happens to be one of the fastest growing hubs on the planet for semiconductors and massive data centers.
So it's basically the engine room for the internet.
Yes. And the political landscape there just experienced a major shock. The former ruling coalition, Barisan Nasional, just won a crushing landslide. They took 48 out of 56 seats.
Wow, that is a total blowout.
It is, and this severely bruised Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's federal government. A lot of this was largely due to unusually low voter turnout. But the point is, when political shifts happen in a choke point like Johor,
it shakes the whole tech industry.
It sends ripples through the entire global tech supply chain because the hardware that runs our cloud storage, our AI, and yes, advanced military defense systems flows right through that specific region.
So a low voter turnout in one Malaysian state actually impacts the stability of the servers processing our data today. That is wild to think about.
It really highlights how interconnected the map is.
It does.
Yeah.
But looking at the notes, there seems to be an even deeper current driving where these tech hubs spring up in the first place.
Exactly. And it has everything to do with what happened yesterday. Yesterday, July 11th, was World Population Day.
Right. Which usually flies under the radar.
It usually does, but this year it highlighted how demographics are quietly redrawing the entire balance of global power. We are seeing rapidly aging populations across East Asia and Europe.
And slowing birth rates in a lot of wealthy nations, too.
Yes. But simultaneously, there is a massive youth surge happening across South Asia and Africa.
Okay, but how does a youth surge in one continent shift global tech dominance? I mean, is it just about having more consumers to buy smartphones or what?
No, it's much more fundamental than that. It's about the labor force that literally keeps the lights on.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, building and maintaining massive data centers, laying undersea cables, running semiconductor fabrication plants. This stuff requires an enormous, young, capable workforce.
Which the aging nations don't have.
Right. The aging nations in East Asia that currently dominate hardware manufacturing are facing a demographic cliff. They simply will not have enough 25-year-olds to keep the servers running and the factories humming in a decade.
Wow.
So the next centers of tech gravity will inevitably shift to where the youth is.
It's like we are watching the tectonic plates of the global economy shift in real time. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because while those massive demographic plates are shifting around the physical labor force, there is a totally different kind of race happening at the very top of the tech food chain.
The AI race.
Exactly. I'm looking at Alphabet, Google's parent company. You would think, with their endless servers and massive resources, they would be immune to any kind of labor shortage.
No.
But they're currently suffering a massive AI brain drain.
There really are. Alphabet is losing a string of their most senior AI scientists to rivals like OpenAI and Anthropic.
Just hemorrhaging talent.
And the fallout isn't just theoretical, it's highly visible. They had to delay the release of their Gemini 3.5 Pro model until later this month.
Which the markets hated.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That delay has seriously rattled their investors and hurt their stock during an already rough trading stretch.
It feels so ironic to me, like they have the biggest data centers and the ultimate scale. Does this mean the AI race is less about company size and more like, I don't know, a sports free agency war for highly specialized human minds?
That is precisely it. While millions of workers are needed to build the physical infrastructure we talked about earlier, the AI talent pool at the very frontier of this technology is microscopically small.
How small are we talking?
You are talking about a few dozen, maybe a few hundred human brains worldwide who truly understand the complex mathematics required to build the next generation of these models.
That is crazy. So the software side is fighting over a tiny fraction of global brain power. But jumping back to the hardware side for a second, it seems like they are fighting a war against physics itself.
Oh, absolutely. And this brings us to a development out of China that is, frankly, astounding.
I saw this in the notes and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, a Shanghai-based startup named Yuanjiwei just launched what they are calling the world's first 8-inch production line for two-dimensional semiconductors.
Wait, color me skeptical here. We hear big promises from startups all the time. Two-dimensional semiconductors sound like science fiction. What does that actually mean, and how can a startup bypass decades of Western chip dominance just like that?
I know, it is a massive claim. But the physics behind it are real, and this is where it gets incredibly exciting. Let's break down how we currently make chips. Right now, we use a process called lithography.
Okay.
Think of it like using highly advanced light to print microscopic cities onto pieces of silicon. The machines that do this are heavily restricted by U.S. export controls, meaning China has struggled to get them.
Right, the geopolitical choke point we hear about all the time.
Exactly. But standard silicon has a physical limit. We can only shrink those microscopic cities so much before the physical properties of silicon literally break down and electrons just leak everywhere.
So they just stop working.
Yes. But two-dimensional semiconductors abandon that bulky silicon approach entirely. They use materials that are literally atomic layers thin.
Wait, atomic layers?
Yes, they are so thin they are virtually two-dimensional.
So they're building circuits literally atom by atom.
Precisely. And what Yuanjiwei is claiming is that by 2029, they will be able to rival the performance of advanced 5-nanometer silicon chips.
In just a few years.
Right. But here is the critical part. Because the manufacturing process for 2D materials is entirely different, they intend to do this without needing those restricted Western lithography machines at all.
Oh, wow. So they just sidestepped the whole ban.
Exactly. They aren't trying to smuggle the machines or wait out the trade restrictions. Beijing is just inventing a completely new scientific route around the roadblock.
Man. So what does this all mean? We've got this blisteringly fast hardware evolution attempting to bypass global choke points, and we've got these hyper-specialized human minds pushing AI software to the absolute limit, which leads us perfectly into the rollout of OpenAI's GPT 5.6.
A very controversial rollout.
Right. They just pushed it out broadly, promising way more capability, but literally almost immediately, a UK agency flagged that this new model is vulnerable to universal jailbreaks. What exactly is a universal jailbreak?
Well, a jailbreak is when a user tricks an AI into bypassing its own safety protocols. Normally, if you ask an AI how to write malicious code, its guardrails will stop it and say, I can't do that.
Right, it gives you that generic refusal message.
Exactly. But a universal jailbreak is a highly specialized prompt that scrambles the AI's logic pathways, effectively unlocking those restricted capabilities. In this case, severe cyber capabilities.
I'm trying to visualize this. It sounds less like hacking a computer and more like, I don't know, hypnotizing a machine.
That's an excellent way to put it, actually. It's like training a guard dog not to bite, but then realizing that if someone wears a specific type of hat, it overrides all the dog's training and you can still command it to attack.
That is wild.
Yeah, the AI's logic is fundamentally confused by the prompt structure.
That is terrifying. And to make it wilder, OpenAI is losing its 6th safety leader in 2 years, right as this is happening. They're now folding their safety team directly into their main research organization.
What's fascinating here is the ideological split this creates in Silicon Valley. I mean, supporters argue that you want safety integrated directly into research.
Like baking it in from the start.
Right. You want the people building the engines to be building the brakes at the exact same time. But critics see a glaring conflict of interest. They worry that folding safety into research dilutes independent oversight. It really captures the central tension of this entire AI moment capability gains are simply arriving faster than reliable safety controls.
And those lacking safety controls are spilling directly into real-world cyber threats that affect you, your workplace, and even your local school. Because while we are talking about super advanced AI cyber capabilities, the actual security updates from the federal government look incredibly urgent right now.
They do.
The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, just added 4 actively exploited flaws to their absolute must-patch list.
Yes, and being on CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog is essentially a giant red flashing light.
It's not a drill.
Exactly. It means attackers are not just theorizing about these flaws, they are using them in the wild right now. The list includes Adobe Cold Fusion, 2 Joomla extensions, and notably the AI tool Langflow.
Okay, let's pause there because that sounds like a lot of tech jargon. Can you translate that for us? Like, what are Cold Fusion and Joomla, and why should the average person care?
Sure. Think of Joomla like the plumbing for a website. It's a content management system that millions of everyday websites use to build their pages.
Okay, makes sense.
And Adobe Cold Fusion is a tool that connects those websites to back-end databases. So it's how a website pulls your customer data, for instance. And Langflow is essentially plumbing for AI applications, helping developers piece together different AI models.
Oh, okay.
So if attackers find a crack in that plumbing, they can siphon out data or take control of the system entirely.
And it's not just software, it's physical hardware, too. I saw Ubiquiti, the company that makes those Unify routers and networking gear you see literally everywhere, just had to patch 7 critical flaws. One of them's a maximum severity bug in the Unify OS.
And that matters immensely because of where Unify gear lives. We aren't just talking about giant enterprise server farms here.
Right, it's in regular places.
Exactly. Unify is the backbone for thousands of small businesses, local coffee shops, and critically, schools. It's a flaw that could let an attacker take total control of the network. Fortunately, there's no evidence of active exploitation on the Unify bug yet, which makes patching immediately the smart, low-drama move.
To get ahead of it before it's a disaster.
Precisely.
But amid all these super sophisticated AI jailbreaks and OS flaws, I think the most astonishing thing in our briefing today is how hackers are actually breaking into companies right now. They aren't always using advanced AI code. They're using Microsoft Teams.
Ah, yes, the help desk spam. It is incredibly effective.
It blew my mind.
Yeah.
Criminals are literally impersonating IT help desk staff inside a company's internal Microsoft Teams chat. They message an employee, pretend to be fixing a routine issue, and trick them into installing malware disguised as a software patch. How does this even work? Doesn't a company's internal network block outside messages?
You'd think so, but often they use compromised accounts they've already bought on the dark web to get that first foothold inside the network.
Oh, so they're already inside the house.
Exactly. Once they are messaging from what looks like an internal company account, it completely bypasses traditional email phishing filters. It relies entirely on leveraging internal trust.
Which is so sneaky.
It really is. It highlights a persistent truth in cybersecurity. You can build the most advanced firewall in the world, but if a human being willingly opens the door because someone asked nicely, the firewall is useless.
So the takeaway here is entirely human.
Exactly. Human verification is our best firewall. If you get an unexpected message from IT telling you to click a link or install an update, You have to verify it through a known channel. Pick up the phone and actually call the help desk before you click anything.
Yeah, trust but verify. It really puts things into perspective. If billion-dollar tech corporations and federal cybersecurity agencies are struggling to control these rapid advancements in basic human vulnerabilities, how on earth are our most vulnerable institutions supposed to cope?
It's a huge challenge.
I'm talking about our schools. If you have kids or if you're just feeling the absolute whiplash of all this technology constantly flooding into our lives, this next part is for you. Because looking at these notes, it feels like we are witnessing a massive cultural pivot, a retreat from the Silicon Valley move fast and break things era, especially in education.
And honestly, it's a necessary retreat. Let's trace the causal link here. Schools rely on the very same physical supply chains we discussed earlier.
The Chromebooks and cloud surfers.
Right, tied to places like Johor. And they face the exact same cybersecurity threats, like those Unify router flaws. They are heavily exposed, often with vastly smaller IT budgets than corporations.
Which is just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And policy is finally trying to catch up to that exposure, it seems. We're seeing 4 more U.S. states now requiring school districts to formally adopt AI policies. One state went as far as explicitly prohibiting AI from being used for grading, for discipline, or for any high-stakes decisions regarding students.
This represents a vital shift. A written AI policy for a school district is no longer a luxury. It is a baseline expectation.
You just have to have one.
Yeah. Districts are realizing they cannot just allow unguided experimentation with tools that have the potential for universal jailbreaks and embedded biases. They need explicit guardrails.
In Los Angeles Unified School District, one of the largest in the country, is taking this a huge step further. They aren't just looking at the AI software, they're looking at the screens themselves. LA Unified is completely banning screen time before the 2nd grade and sharply limiting it for older students.
It is a powerful signal of what we might call disciplined edtech adoption.
That's a good phrase for it?
Yeah, district leaders are explicitly stating that devices must support learning, not replace it. For years, the assumption was that more technology in the classroom automatically equaled better education.
Right, put an iPad in front of every kid and they'll be geniuses.
Exactly. But LA Unified's policy challenges that head-on. It is a concerted return to fundamental human-to-human learning during the most critical developmental years of a child's life.
It's really refreshing to see boundaries being drawn. We spend so much time talking about how technology is fracturing our attention, so seeing a major institution actually pump the brakes and return to human fundamentals feels significant, which I think is the perfect bridge to the end of our briefing today.
I agree.
After a heavy dive into global conflict, AI risks, and screen bans, let's look at what brings humanity together. What are people actually sharing and celebrating today? Let's start with sports. What a match in Miami.
You're talking about the World Cup quarterfinal, of course.
I am. England beats Norway 2-1 in extra time to reach the 2026 World Cup semifinals.
Such a tense game.
Jude Bellingham scoring both goals, absolute heroics. And there was massive VAR drama, video review calls going against Norway that completely lit up social media. It had everything you want in a summer tournament.
And it wouldn't be a modern sporting event without a viral meme crossing over into pop culture.
Oh my gosh, the Murat Yakin meme. I could not stop laughing at this. The head coach of the Swiss national team, Murat Yakin, went completely viral because fans realize his intense, brooding sideline stare makes him look exactly like the actor Mads Mikkelsen.
It's the cheekbones, I think.
Right. It crossed over from sports Twitter right into mainstream feeds.
Ugh.
Everyone was making James Bond villain jokes.
It really is uncanny. And staying with sports for a moment, we also saw a huge breakout run at Wimbledon from the Czech tennis star Linda Noskova.
Oh yeah, she played brilliantly.
She did. It's drawn massive celebration back in the Czech Republic and across Europe. These are the kinds of storylines that pull casual viewers in. They provide a shared, feel-good narrative that unites people across borders.
And we definitely need those shared experiences right now.
Yeah.
But speaking of things going viral, I was genuinely surprised to see what else was trending. Usually, World Population Day is a topic reserved for academic journals and UN reports, but yesterday it was everywhere.
It was. It became a massive trending topic across social feeds. People were actively debating aging societies, youth booms, and falling birth rates.
Why do you think that broke through the noise this year? I mean, demographics are usually pretty dry.
I think it's because people are starting to connect those macro demographic dots to their own daily lives.
Like connecting it to the economy?
Exactly. They are realizing that global demographics aren't just numbers on a page. They dictate the housing market, job availability, inflation, and national power. When you frame it in a way that impacts their wallet and their community, people are incredibly hungry to understand the mechanics of the world they live in.
They want to see how the whole machine works.
Hmm.
And speaking of the world, we promised some genuinely good news to close on, and the headlines this week absolutely delivered.
They really did. Conservationists are reporting a record global forest comeback.
That's huge.
It is. We are seeing one of the greatest reforestation recoveries in modern history taking root. And alongside that, medical researchers announced a highly promising new test for womb cancer, which could dramatically improve early detection rates.
Wow, that could save so many lives.
Absolutely. And we are also tracking steady, measurable environmental progress in places like Estonia, proving that targeted policy changes actually work.
It's such a necessary breath of fresh air.
It is. I mean, after a news cycle dominated by conflict, rapid technological disruption, and cyber threats, stories like these circulate widely because it is profound proof that quiet, patient work keeps paying off.
Yeah.
Whether it's planting trees to rebuild an ecosystem or conducting years of rigorous cancer research, these things take immense time. Sometimes the most encouraging headlines in the world are about things that are slowly, stubbornly healing.
Slowly, stubbornly healing. I love that. And, it brings us right back to where we started today. We open by talking about this glowing map of global arteries, the race to pump data and oil across the globe faster and faster, bypassing physical choke points with atomic-level microchips. We just spent this deep dive talking about the blistering, almost terrifying speed of AI breakthroughs and instant cyber threats.
It all moves so fast.
It really does. But the good news today, the massive reforestation, the shifting human demographics, the long road to curing cancer, none of that happens in a nanosecond. It operates on the timescale of years, decades, and generations. So here is the question for you to take away today. In our desperate rush to build technology that moves at the speed of light, are we forgetting that the most permanent, powerful forces in the world, the ones that actually heal us, still move at the speed of nature? Stay informed. Stay curious. See you next time on The Deep Dive.